Hello,
Tacoma. So nice.
So nice.
All right, friends. Well, let's check in with our zones before we get started today.
Let's do that.
How are you feeling today? Your body, your brain, your emotions? I'm going to count down from 3 to 0, and you're going to act like a statue in the way that you're feeling. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
3, 2. Now, 5th graders, you can do this. If we can do this on YouTube for the whole world to see, you can do it. 3, 2, 1, 0.
Mr. Kevin and I look very similar.
Yes, ye.
Are you in the green zone?
I'm in the green zone.
Me too. Ooh, Mrs. Wally doesn't look green.
Mrs.
Not green.
Wally, not green.
What's going on?
Well, we've got some big things going on at home. We might be buying a house.
Oh,
And
it is big.
yeah. So there's just a lot of moving pieces. We weren't expecting it. And so
How does your shoulder feel, Mrs.
bad. We're just not
There's
going to
that
talk about
too.
my shoulder.
Wally? I'm so sorry.
So
that's tough.
that's the blue part of me, but it's just
Yeah.
going to be blue. But so my emotions are nervous. So something I'm doing is I am taking really deep breaths, a lot of them, and I'm trying to focus in the moment because I can't control what's going to happen in an hour or two. And so I just have to focus on what I'm doing right now
Yes.
and be in the moment today.
Yes.
Sometimes I don't have to be in the moment, but today I have to be in the moment.
I
We can
also
do-
heard you doing some positive self-talk earlier,
Yes.
encouraging and reminding yourself.
Reminding myself that I can do this.
Yep.
I'm just really excited and so
Yeah.
and nervous, and I know that we might not get it. Someone else might get it, and so that can be hard. So
That can be hard.
We can do hard things, right,
can do hard
teachers?
and I'm going to be okay. Kind of like I think I should tell the 5th graders my story. I think from this weekend,
Yes.
from my test.
Oh, yes.
Do you mind if we take just a moment? 5th graders, this is a really important story.
Yes.
Because you're going into middle school, you're going to have to start taking some tests for that are really, I mean, you already take big tests, but it's a little different in middle school. So I process out loud. We've talked about that a lot, how when I'm reading things or taking really hard tests, I need to talk out loud to process them. So I took my really big test for my final for my course in my master's this weekend. And I got on, and it was on the computer, and they were on Zoom watching me take it. And it was 58 questions. And I started reading the questions out loud and talking to myself, positive self-talk out loud, reasoning which answers I thought were correct or incorrect. And the proctor came on and said, "Excuse me, ma'am, I need you to not read the questions out loud because we're recording." And that's how I understand things.
Yes.
And so I had a choice to make. I could stop the test and give up, or I could try my best. And so it took me a lot longer. I had to read each question probably 10 times each to understand it, but I finished the test and I passed my test. And I had to give myself a chilly hug and take deep breaths. And many times I said, "No, you can do this." All the thoughts of self-doubt came in, and I said, "No, you know this information, you can do this." And I did it. So
Proud
I
of you, Mrs.
used the
Wally.
skills we're teaching you in my own real life situation as an adult. So know that what we're teaching you really does work.
They really are useful skills.
They are. And I just used them this weekend. So
Nice.
let's do our lesson, shall we?
All right, let's talk about our 3 personal standards.
Today and every day.
We agree to
Show respect,
make good decisions, and solve problems.
And one way we show respect
Is by honoring our indigenous lands and peoples. And we do this by taking a moment to look out the window, look at the sky, look at the trees, your surroundings. Our physical space stands on the historical and ancestral lands of the Puyallup tribe of Indians. We acknowledge the Puyallup tribe of Indians community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations.
I have a wondering on that slide.
Yes.
So we've been talking a lot about salmon,
Yes.
and lower left there in that slide is a Native American depiction of a salmon,
Yes.
right? And then there's a face in the middle of it. And I'm wondering what that symbolism means.
It's a really good question. I don't know.
I don't know the answer
I
to
know
that.
that there's a lot of stories and learning behind the art that our Native American community members do, and I am also curious.
Yeah. It's a wonderful wondering.
Yeah.
We are going to read a folktale today based on the culture of our Northwest Native Americans, and we're going to learn more about salmon and their culture.
And maybe,
So-
I mean, I'm going to pay attention to the pictures in this to see if I notice any similarities or if there's
Oh, what
no
an excellent focus.
similarities. Yeah.
When we do this, we're going to think about why are salmon important to the Salish Sea, including the people that live in
They're
and
part of
around
it.
the Salish Sea. Well, this is interesting. Our big
Hey.
science words.
Oh.
We actually don't need these
We don't.
for this lesson.
We're gonna skip over big science words because I want to get into the book.
Yeah. Do think about and have your graphic organizer open in your notebook about what you think you know about salmon in the Salish Sea and what you want to know, because this is going to be a new type of learning
It is.
for us.
And are we going to do a graphic organizer for this one?
We have a mind map
Okay.
that we were going to do.
So what you can do is in your journal, draw an outline of this in your journal. In the middle, write salmon. And then as you're listening to the story, you can be taking notes about the different ways that salmon were a really important part of the Salish Sea and the people of the Salish Sea. And that's what's going to kind of go in the bubbles on the end. And you can, or if you have a different way of organizing your thinking you'd like to use, totally fine. This is just one option of a way that you could draw easily in your notebook to capture your thinking as we read.
We're going to read The Salmon Twins.
So excited. It's
Written
such a good
and
book.
illustrated by Carol Simpson. And already, Kevin, I'm noticing some similarities in the
I'm
art there
seeing
on the
some
front cover.
faces.
Yeah.
Long ago, on the shores of the Pacific Northwest, a family gathered to wait for the arrival of a new clan member. When the voice of a new baby filled the smoky house, the people cheered. A new child was important. Greater joy overcame the village when the voice of a second baby joined the song of the first. The birth of twins was special and rare and meant they could have salmon as their crest. Children of the salmon, the people cheered. This is an occasion to celebrate, Father cried.
Can we pause right there?
Yeah.
Friends, I want you to think about the significance of it having to be twins in order to have the crest of the salmon. Go ahead and press pause. Have some private think time. Why is that significant? Why is being the salmon an honoring thing?
And then press play when you're done.
Okay. So, Miss Oslin, why do we think that that's honoring?
Well, twins, like it said, twins are rare. And it must feel really special. So they use something that's special to them to honor.
So we could infer that salmon are held in high regard
I
in
think
their
so.
communities?
I think so.
Okay. Let's keep reading.
The new boy and girl were a blessing to the village. The whole community gathered to welcome the salmon twins and to thank the heavens for their good fortune. The twins grew strong. Soon, they pulled the white dog's tail and tipped over the water baskets. When they found woodworm in the bottom of a box, both children wanted to hold it. They were surprised when Woodworm said, "Beware of your greedy ways."
They sound like normal children to me.
Yes, they do. As the days grew long, the food supply shrank. The dried fish in the storage box was hard to reach. Only mink, with its crafty ways, was full. With less food to share, the twins struggled and argued. Mother told the children, "This is not the way of the people." But the twins did not listen. Auntie told the children, "Stop your greedy ways and take the last fish to grandmother." But the twins did not listen. They pulled the fish apart and ate it up. Thunderbird watched, and he was not pleased. Clapping his great wings, he changed the greedy children into a two-headed sea serpent and dropped it into the ocean.
Now, going back one page, they were told to give it to their grandmother. And then they didn't.
Didn't listen.
And the mother said greedy is not the way of our people. So what does that tell us about the culture of Native Americans and salmon's significance for them? Private think time, pause, and then play when you're ready to share. Okay, go ahead, share. What are you thinking?
I was thinking that greed is not a behavior that they want to see.
Well, if people are greedy, that's not going to make for a community that can live and grow together. It's going to make people who have and people who don't. And they were supposed to be showing that respect to their elder by taking that fish to their grandmother, and they chose greed instead, which is not how these cultures work.
And also, when we're greedy, we take too much. And then if we take too much salmon, that can be detrimental to the success of salmon breeding and populating.
And so this eagle, I think, is going to teach them a lesson. So let's learn what lesson they learn.
It did turn him into a two-headed sea serpent.
That's right.
It was a hard time for the people. They missed the twins, and the salmon were late coming up the river. Everyone understood there were lessons the children had to learn. The people also knew the twins were strong enough to find their way home. They hoped the salmon would find their way as well. Still, grandmother often waited with Loon on the beach looking for the children.
You know, I read this before, and I'm just now realizing the whole community suffered along with these twins because of their choice. But they did it knowing that it was for the twins' good to learn a lesson.
They needed to learn.
How supportive.
The twins fought and struggled with each other and got nowhere. Sea Otter laughed at their folly and said, "You must learn to get along." Right away, the twins understood. They shared the body of the serpent.
Ooh.
Homesick, the serpent wished that greed had not brought it. I'm going to start that sentence over. Homesick, the serpent wished that greed had not brought it to this lonely place. It could not decide what to do. Finally, it decided to just go get something to eat. But there were no salmon to be found, for deep in the ocean, Killer Whale guarded the gates to the village of the salmon. He was preventing the salmon from going up the river to feed the people. Killer Whale wanted the salmon all for himself. Seeing greedy Killer Whale, Dogfish asked Kingfisher to get help. With his loud chatter, Kingfisher alerted everyone that the salmon were trapped, but no one dared confront Killer Whale.
Because as we know, orcas are the apex predator of the sea, and so they can defeat anybody.
I'm not going to mess with a killer whale.
Me neither.
Night was falling when the two-headed sea serpent heard Kingfisher's story and understood why the people were hungry. Serpent set off for the village of the salmon, but traveling in the dark was difficult. Swimming up to Gray Whale, the two heads of the serpent cried out almost in unison, "Whale, whale, please, please, help us bring the salmon home. Our family is hungry." Gray Whale closed his eyes so he would not see the eyes of the serpent. He knew the eyes of two-headed sea serpents have many mystical powers. Gray Whale was not the best friend of Killer Whale and was glad to give Sea Serpent a ride to the village of the salmon. Thinking about the people going hungry made Serpent mad. The faster Whale traveled, the angrier Serpent became, thinking about Killer Whale's greed. When they arrived at the village of the salmon, Serpent's eyes were flashing in anger. Killer Whale looked up. The moment his eyes met the two-headed sea serpents, Killer Whale turned into stone and fell to the bottom of the sea. Wasting no time, the two-headed sea serpent and Gray Whale drove the salmon up from the deep and to the river. Whale, of course, had to stop at the mouth of the river. The two-headed sea serpent quickly made a plan. Working together, its two heads decided to spread their body from shore to shore to keep the salmon up the river where the people could get them. It would take days for the people to gather enough fish for the winter. Day and night, Serpent held tight to the shores of the river. This was hard to do. Halibut did not make it any easier by tickling Serpent's belly. The two-headed sea serpent became exhausted and closed its eyes for a while. It almost did not see Seawolf trying to break through the barricade. With just one look, Serpent turned Seawolf into stone.
So when they worked together, they were able to do good with their power.
So they're learning the lesson of working together.
And thinking about, in my head, what their community is doing for them by working together and learning the lesson alongside them, it's pretty amazing.
After a few days, Thunderbird flew over to make sure the people had enough salmon. When Thunderbird saw that the people had their full harvest, he clapped his giant wings. Instantly, the two-headed sea serpent turned back into hungry twins. Fog rolled onto the shore. Gathering salmon to take home, the twins heard the call of Loon. "Watch out for the greedy one," called Loon. In the mist, they saw the big black rock move. It was Sea Lion, trying to grab their basket of fish. Already very fat and full of salmon, Sea Lion could hardly move. As the twins shared the weight of the heavy basket, they easily outran him.
Working together.
Loon guided the children down the beach and back home. Grandmother was still there waiting. With joy in their hearts, the twins gave her the basket of fish. As the people worked, smoking their harvest, they marveled at their good fortune. Having such helpful twins was indeed a blessing. So, why are salmon important to the Salish Sea and the people of the Salish Sea?
Well, they provide food. They've taught really important lessons.
It's part of their culture.
And their economy.
So you are going to go back into your inquiry chart and think about, what do you think you know about salmon in the Salish Sea? Maybe revise your thinking if you think differently now. Also, what questions do you have, or what answers do you have to some of the questions you've already asked?
Because at this point, we should have more answers. Well, not necessarily. We should have answers to some of our questions.
Yes.
We might have more questions because, as we know, as we learn, we end up getting more questions to answer.
Yes. And you're going to take that and you're going to create something.
Think about everything we've learned about salmon, about economy, about Northwest Native American culture. Why were salmon important to this region? What made them important? And you can create anything. This is
song?
open-ended.
Yes.
A PowerPoint presentation.
A poem.
A movie.
Act it out. Anything that shows what you know about salmon and the Salish Sea.
Your job is to prove to your teacher or to us that you understand why salmon were important, and you can tell us how and why using evidence from what you've learned.
You can post it on Flipgrid
I am
if you
so
would like.
excited.
I know our 5th graders have been really active on Flipgrid.
They're the only grade that's been active on Flipgrid, so it's been really fun to interact with you.
Yes. You could also send it to us here at TV Classroom. Mr. Kevin's going to tell you 2 ways that you can send us your thinking.
That's right, 5th graders, you can send us an email to TV Classroom at tacoma.k12.wa.us, or you can always send us something in the regular mail to the beautiful downtown headquarters of TV Classroom here at 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.
Awesome.
Now it's time for our affirmation. This is where we get to think like Mrs. Wally and remember to practice using positive self-talk, so when we actually need it, we know how to do it.
Yep. I didn't even have to think about it. I was just able to do it because I practice it all the time.
Let's practice the really important one that Mr. Kevin reminded us of, which is, I can do hard things.
That's right.
Let's all take a deep breath together. Say our affirmation. I can do hard things. Excellent job today, Tacoma. We hope you have a great rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you back here next time in our TV classroom.
As an effort.
1. You have 10 seconds to pick your crewmate. 2. A new timer will appear with an exercise for the crewmate you picked. 3. You will get points for each correct crewmate and exercise you choose. 4. You will get bonus points if you find Maui's hook. 5. If you pick the imposter, you will lose all your points. 6. Use your math skills to see how many points you can get. Good luck.